Hello, I am Angeline Spignesi, Kopylec Arden, and for those of you who haven't heard my earlier audios, I'm a depth psychologist and professor of humanities at Holy Apostles College and Seminary in Cromwell, Connecticut. And so here I'll be continuing the summary of findings in my book, The Articulate Silence of God, on the synchrony of depth psychology with Christ. I left off with the necessity of facing your quote-unquote madness, ways you feel out of control and clinging to, manipulating, or trying to hurt another. The necessity of not acting out, but facing that, going to the abysmal hole at its source, facing the hell in that madness, the yearning, and the searing breach of boundary as you try to possess or hurt another. The remainder of the articulate silence of God is a discussion on facing this madness that is in everyone, the evil in it, facing it with another, in relationship. It continues with a section entitled Hole, H-O-L-E, where I take the reader into experiences of walking through the woods into the abyss, the horror of emptiness, with no form, only disorientation, complete havoc. I cite Psalm 69, verses 19 to 21, Job 15, verses 21 to 24, Psalm 31, 9 to 13, Ezekiel 19, 12 to 14, Psalm 22, verses 1 to 18, and also some of my poems on it, including the one with which I end the section. Quote, severely broken. Heart, if one knows to have a heart, turmoil of no template, the foils. Vacuum attracting invasion. Demon love when loved ones stand aloof, the demons we share invade whole host. Their lure, its cell, remembers it, end quote. Part 2 is entitled Hybrid, Whole, Holy of Holies. And here, when I quote from the Bible, it will be the Revised Standard Version, 1966, Xlibris Press. So first I define hybrid by Webster. Quote, the offspring of two animals or plants of different races, varieties, species, etc. End quote. And then I give the figurative definition from the Oxford English Dictionary, quote, anything derived from heterogeneous sources or composed of different or incongruous elements, end quote. Then I resume Sanders' story in a lyrical analytic language, which I'll summarize here. Sander is still at Lydia's home, and her husband Sven enters the room. Sven picked up on Sander's emptiness, profound disappointment, and dissociation. Quote, from my text, the husband receives the despair rush within vacuum, the point to whole, sits in the mist gap. They sit there quiet together, appetizing smells from her kitchen, end quote. They begin speaking about what it is to negotiate, to confront and negotiate the ancestral harmful patterns that repeat. The pattern of the bites. Sven says that whether it's in the place of nutrition or creativity or desire, the first bite is the rupture, when it is realized that the parent is not God and it feels like a fall from grace, a rift from God. Sander asks what it would be if the parent could accompany the child through the rift, help the child take the Godhead off the parent, allow the humanization of the parent to unfold. Then Sven responds, the lure to demon lovers would be cut at the source, and there is a way for Christ to take the child to ark, move within the spark of spirit when God reveals who one is. So here are some of the insights uncovered in their conversation. Family issues are not a cause, but a reflection of where we have gone astray, our flaw. The family members produce the first emotional pattern, and each family member reflects the hurdles we need to cross to get to the Holy of Holies, where God is known dwelling within. Why does the parent bite his child who is so intimate with God? Sander is asking Sven, who replies, the parent cannot satiate the child when he is not satiated, cannot protect her when his security is or has been in question. He cannot abide her creative product when he is distant from his fruit or does not even know it. He cannot fulfill her desire or allow it to be met when his is curtailed and lagging. So instead, bite. And what's behind it all? Sven admits he went from one daughter to the other, playing them off one another. When he saw the gift of the first, which could return her to God and separate more from him, then he switched, dropped her, and gave his attention and affection to the other daughter. His bite was to switch. And he now knows she will experience that drop repetitively with teachers and authorities and lovers. Yet he felt that in losing her to her gift, to God, that she abandoned him. When the child grows into herself, then she is no longer serving as the ground of the parent, his nutrient, his extension, and his exclusive desire. She was following a moment dictated by the Holy Spirit, and he was not. So he nurtured the child only according to his own design, to keep her his own. Nurture her only in his mold, make it orient to fit his desire, and mostly make her carry the hell and despair of himself, living out of the rift when he did not know spirit or his gift. So his daughter had to be all, his gift, which also is his inability to know his true gift, to know God. Thus, here is the serpent, the fall, occurring in each childhood and repeated in great precision generationally. Each family member in relation to us is another aspect of the hurdles, the quote-unquote angel with whom we must wrestle. The familial patterns, that drama, is where we have most difficulty moving away from our personal desire, since that is made up of so many defenses from the pain in these patterns. We have to go through that personal desire, that is, covered defenses, to the part that is God's desire for us, which is our original voice. So this means moving out of the mold of our personal desires formed by the harmful patterns and our reactions to them. The temptation is, once the pattern repeats and appears in our life, to go backwards, merge in pre-reflective bliss in acting them out. Our will, not of God, gets caught in family flaws. God's desire is for who we are, recovered from, working through the familial flaw. To negotiate the pattern means to live it, experience it consciously and attentively, so it brings us to our essential flaw. Sit in that inferiority, abysmal hole, and wait for the Spirit to move, to speak. Spirit will lead us to the second birth, fecund creative imagination, where womb becomes ark. Fruit of the Spirit, the hybrid between whole and holy of holies, sacred pierced heart. Sacred heart and its fruit. This is not a panacea, but pierced to fruit. Fruit always at one with the pierced. Sven reminds Sander that behind the pattern of bites and the pattern of one's reaction to them, behind the attempt to bite and cut into the child's gift, is to carry the dead unreflectively and without mourning. He says that he dropped his daughter when she was close to God because she was no longer his mother. She no longer compensated for his dead or absent mother who he hadn't mourned. The mother who couldn't be there as mother all the time, completely for him. This incomplete mourning or not attempted mourning of the dead, the literal dead, mother or father, or where they were neglectful, absent or abusive, is why we want to be God for the child, or why we want the child to be God for us. We cannot tolerate the whole of being left, being bereft, and when the child was born, for a time, that hole seemed to be filled. And they discuss why mourning is so difficult, why it feels like such a threat. It is that the bites and losses within them have placed us in what feels like a God-forsaken hole. Then we think we can escape the hole by using another as God substitutes or disciples. So we are God, in order to orient us in time and space, attempt to give life a purpose, to try to hold ourselves together, to not feel the disillusion, the havoc of nothingness. Therefore we find those with whom we can merge, twins, or else those to idealize, finding God in them to orient and be. Yet when the idol collapses, we dissolve. Think of those you idolized, and then how you felt when you realized they were human, were flawed, and betrayed or left or tried to possess you, or all of those. We are afraid of mourning that, since such mourning threatens to dissolve us more, yet actually it does the opposite. It buoys us up, and we are more solid after the release. When a human is our idol, then we feel we are whole, have an organizing self, and we grab our child for stand-in as idol when the former idols collapse. So we have an extension, and we can be idol to the child. And vacuum attracts demons. We are afraid to be without idol and in the hole alone with demons. Dissolving in the hole is no joke. It is so important to stay consciously there, since it is an opening. First, however, often the demons rush in. Sven discusses casting lots to find the future. The 10th day after Christ's ascension, the disciples had to cast lots to know what God willed. The holiest of men wore the linen vest called ephod, which had a pouch holding 2 objects called Urim and Thummim to be cast to determine God's will in a matter. And even after Christ's rise within the first 10 days after the ascension, the apostles cast lots to see which of the 2 apostles would take Judas's place. Yet at Pentecost, no need of casting lots anymore. The Holy Spirit speaks the response, the decision, the answer. Now, the Holy Spirit is not bliss. It is not intoxicating nor elevating. It is the wind blowing our shaft of family flaw and original sin, the human base of greed, stealing, lies, lusts, rages, gluttonies, despairs, and self-pities, blowing it away. Now you may ask, what is the relationship of the dove, this spirit, to this encounter with evil? To the stones cast upon the adulteress, the sheep over the cliff, the betrayal kiss, delivered of demons, but not filled with the Holy Spirit, the house swept clean, but when it is only a human effort, then 7 more demons enter. Luke 11, verses 24 to 26. Receive Christ intimately, and the Holy Spirit occupies what would be the vacuum that would attract more demons. Quote from my book. Moses' rod became serpent. Numbers 21, verses 7 to 9. John 3, verse 14. And this was the crucifixion taken out of time. Moses and his people were under a cloud, and they went through the sea, baptized in the cloud and the sea. And now quoting from the Bible, 1 Corinthians 10, verses 2 to 4. And all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same supernatural food, and all drank the same supernatural drink, for they drank from the supernatural rock which followed them, and the rock was Christ. End quote. And now back to quoting from my book. Drinking from the rock, earth yielding living water, and he comes with a fan in the hand. fire and wind. Blow away burnt chaff in unquenchable fire, and then quench through living water, rocked. End quote. Evil is based on our feeling that we have an irrevocable flaw. Evil has roots in the sense of our disfigurement of body or soul, and our consequent fears from such. To heal such fear becoming evil, here is Christ. Yet it is not for us to know, to completely understand evil. It is a mystery within his blood transmutation. Jude 1, verse 9, quote, "But where the archangel Michael, contending with the devil, disputed about the body of Moses, he did not presume to pronounce a reviling judgment upon him, but said, quote, 'The Lord rebuke you,' end quote." So we are not to answer the evil, nor is it the role of the angel. Here is Christ. Sandra wonders, oh, if only that flawed, disfigured, tarnished place could be shown directly, open to another, before it becomes destructive, open to another who is non-critical and not afraid, open through a love that lets the love of Christ emanate. He understands. For the dead unmourned pass through those flaws, inflate, and then become bilious, killing, stealing, destroying. The dead who built us pass down the flaw, as we will if it is not approached, attended to, healed. We think we are responsible for this flaw, patterns of destructive attitude and action, and run from it to bite back, which can become a lashing at the other, a contemptuousness, and or manipulation. Reed, Brocklehurst, Rochester. So this ends my third audio on this book, and I will continue in the next one. Thank you for listening.